have a word for the Western world. This crop of Africans you have at this time, you can never intimidate them. We are fearless, we are intelligent, we are economically stable, we have the money to match you, man to man, fire to fire, money to money, anywhere you bring it. What Finland government says that our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa did is exactly what this over 1,000 people gathered here will do it, and we will continue to do it. Nobody, if the zoo government likes, if the Nigerian government under President Tinubu, if they like to hold our leader Nnamdi Kanu for the next 100 years, in Finland, that is known as one of the freest countries in the world, could succumb to this little child's play being engineered by Nigerian agents.
The Biafra Chief of Staff, Ngozi Orabueze, has sent a strong message to Finland authority, urging them to release Mazi Simon Ekpa and not to allow the Nigerian government to poison their legacy as one of the European countries that respects and value rule of law and fundamental human rights. Her statement highlights the complex dynamics surrounding the agitation for Biafra and the current controversies involving Simon Ekpa, a prominent figure within the Biafra movement. Ngozi Orabueze's remarks, addressed to the Finnish government, emphasize a strong stance against perceived external interference and highlight theme of resilience, self-determination, and mistrust of Nigerian authorities. Ngozi Orabueze accuses Finland of yielding to pressure from Nigeria regarding Simon Ekpa's arrest and alleged mistreatment. She frames this as a potential stain on Finland's reputation as a nation upholding the rule of law and human rights. Her speech underscores the unwavering resolve of the Biafran movement, suggesting that external pressures, including the detention of leaders like Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa, will not diminish their determination. Ngozi Orabueze emphasizes that molding African leaders and movements like the Biafran cause are intelligent, economically stable, and fearless. This rhetoric seeks to inspire solidarity among Africans and challenges global powers. The rhetoric here reflects deep-seated frustrations within the Biafra movement over historical grievances and current political challenges. It also signals the strategic attempt to internationalize their struggle by appealing to global audiences and holding foreign governments accountable. The passionate tone and assertive language demonstrates the movement's intent to remain steadfast despite challenges. It all started with a shock. On November 27, 2024, news broke out that Simon Ekpa, a leading figure in the Biafra movement, had been arrested by Finnish authorities. For anyone unfamiliar, Simon Ekpa is not just a name, but a symbol of the Biafran struggle for self-determination. Many Biafrans see him as a prime minister in their government in exile. His voice, his strategies, and his leadership have inspired countless people both within Nigeria and across the diaspora. For the Biafran community, his arrest felt like a direct attack, not just on him as a person, but on their collective fight for freedom. Questions swelled. Why would Finland, a country known for its strong stance on human rights, detain someone who has been peacefully advocating for the rights of his people? That is when Ngozi Orabueze, the chief of staff for the Biafra movement, stepped into the spotlight. Her response to the arrest was fiery, passionate, and unflinching. She wasn't going to let this moment pass without speaking her mind. Ngozi Orabueze is a remarkable woman. When you hear her speak, you can't help but be drawn in by her confidence and determination. Her voice carries the weight of someone who has seen struggles but refuses to back down. In the days following Simon Ekpa's arrest, Ngozi Orabueze delivered a powerful speech directed at the Finnish government. She urged them to release Simon Ekpa and warned them not to let the Nigerian government tarnish Finland's legacy as a nation that values justice and human rights. Her words were sharp. This crop of Africans cannot be intimidated. We are fearless, we are intelligent, we are economically stable. If it comes to it, we will match you fire for fire, money for money. All we are asking for is our freedom. Can you feel the power in those words? She wasn't just speaking for herself, she was speaking for an entire movement. To understand why this moment is so significant, you need to know a bit about Biafra and its history. Back in the late 1960s, the southeastern region of Nigeria attempted to secede and form an independent nation called Biafra. The move led to a brutal civil war that left millions dead, many of them from starvation. Though the war ended in 1970, the feelings of marginalization and injustice have persisted among many people in the region. The current Biafra movement, led by figures like Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa, is a continuation of that fight for self-determination. But this isn't just about the past. Biafrans today face challenges that fuel their desire for independence. They point to economic neglect, political exclusion, and security issues in the region. It is about creating a better future for their people. Simon Ekpa has been one of the loudest voices in this modern movement, operating from Finland. He has used his platform to organize, educate, and advocate for Biafra. For many, he represents hope, a leader who isn't afraid to speak truth to power, even from afar. His arrest, therefore, was a significant blow to the movement. Finnish authorities claimed that his actions were inciting unrest, but Biafrans saw it differently. To them, this was another example of external forces trying to silence their fight for freedom. When Ngozi Orabueze took to the stage to address this crisis, she didn't hold back. She accused Finland of falling for what she called a child's play, orchestrated by Nigerian agents. She reminded them of their reputation as a nation that represents the rule of law and urged them not to betray that legacy. But what stood out most was her defense. Even as she criticized Finland, she made it clear that Simon Ekpa's detention would not weaken the movement. If they think locking him up will silence us, they are wrong, she said. His absence only makes us stronger. She wasn't just speaking to Finland, she was speaking to the world, and she was speaking to Biafrans, urging them to remain steadfast and united. Ngozi Orabueze's speech touched on a deeper issue, the role of African nations and their diaspora in reclaiming their dignity and autonomy. She painted a picture of a people who have contributed so much to the world but continue to face exploitation and oppression. Why should we have the best doctors, engineers, and professionals working abroad while our people back home suffer? She asks. It is a fair question, isn't it? She called on Biafrans to channel their skills and resources into building their homeland, creating a future where their children could thrive. One of the most striking parts of Ngozi Orabueze's speech was her call for unity among Biafrans. She acknowledged the challenges of trusting each other, especially in a struggle filled with betrayals and setbacks, but she insisted that unity was non-negotiable. We cannot rely on outsiders who have their agendas, she said. It is up to us to build our communities, to create a future where our people can thrive. It is a powerful reminder that while international support is important, real change must come from within. Ngozi Orabueze's words didn't go unnoticed. Videos of her speech began circulating online, sparking conversations among Biafrans and their allies. Some praised her courage and leadership, while others debated her approach. Meanwhile, the situation in Finland remained tense. Simon Ekpa was still in detention, and Biafrans were anxiously waiting to see what would happen next. Would Finland release him and uphold its principles, or would they bow to pressure from the Nigerian government? What is clear from all of this is that the Biafran movement isn't going away. Whether through Simon Ekpa, Ngozi Orabueze, or countless others, the fight for self-determination continues. Ngozi Orabueze herself put it best: if I am gone today, there will be others more determined, more passionate, ready to take up the mantle. This isn't just about Simon Ekpa or even Ngozi Orabueze. It is about a people who refuse to be silenced, a movement that grows stronger in the face of adversity. As we watch this story unfold, it is worth asking ourselves, what does justice look like? For Biafrans, it is about having the freedom to decide their own future. It is about reclaiming their dignity and building a better life for their people. For the rest of us, it is a chance to reflect on how we support or hinder movements like this. Do we stand up for justice, or do we stay silent? One thing is certain: this isn't the end of the story. Whether through Simon Ekpa, Ngozi Orabueze, or the countless voices in the Biafra movement, the fight for freedom will continue, and as Ngozi Orabueze said, the world may not understand us, but we will make them listen. I'll play the video for you guys to watch and see for yourself.
I have a word for the Western world. This crop of Africans you have at this time, you can never intimidate them. We are fearless, we are intelligent, we are economically stable, we have the money to match you, men to men, fire to fire, money to money, anywhere you bring it. What Finland government says that our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa did is exactly what this over 1,000 people gathered here will do it, and we will continue to do it. government likes, if the Nigerian government under President Tinubu, if they like to hold our leader Nnamdi Kanu for the next 100 years, if Finland, that is known as one of the freest countries in the world, could succumb, but that 29th of November is sacrosanct. And there was a reason Biafrans decided to shock the zoo, and we did it. Because of the history of this Biafra Republic government in exile and de facto, because of the lies and some of these little things they did to our PM, we can't trust nobody. We can't. Don't trust me. I'm not begging nobody to trust me. Yeah, and I'm not going to trust you, you know. But we, as Biafra, we are going to start to learn to trust each other. So, on behalf of our Prime Minister, His Excellency, the Obadobie, the Peace Ambassador, Anugan Kampi, His Excellency Simon Ekpa, we Biafrans, we thank you and we greet you for bringing freedom to the United States of Biafra. Finland says, with their local zoo agents hanging around Finland, that our Prime Minister is inciting us. Inciting is the word. And they think if he doesn't talk to us, if they take away his phone, if they don't allow him to talk to any of us, then we are not going to be incited, right? That was their part, right? That was their mentality. Just like the zoo thought that when they take Onyendu and lock him up, we are not going to talk about Biafra anymore. Nobody is going to say anything about our freedom anymore. That is their mentality. So that little children's mentality that went into the Nigerian zoo government is now seeping into Finland somehow. But we have a message for them. If I am gone today, there are people that be more deadly than me that will raise up to move this struggle. USB. That is something they do not understand, or they do understand, but they think they can suppress us. They think with these little shenanigans they can down our spirit. They think with all those maneuvers for Africans to continue to be the slave to the white man, they can continue to reap our resources, drill our mineral resources, take our oil reserves by intimidating us. I have a word for the Western world. This crop of Africans you have at this time, you can never intimidate them. We are fearless, we are intelligent, we are economically stable, we have to match you, men to men, fire to fire, money to money, anywhere you bring it. All we are asking for is to let us have our rights, to let us build our countries, to help us build our communities, to let our people enjoy those things that all of us here are offering and helping you in the first world, or whatever country we are in the diaspora. Whatever we are helping you to build in this country outside, we want to take it home to our people. I think that is a fair statement. It is fair. It's a fair statement. We can always come and visit you. We can always come and visit our businesses we have in the diaspora. But we must go home and establish our homes. We cannot continue to have the best doctors in the world in diaspora, the best nurse practitioners, the best nurses, the best engineers, the best lawyers, and they are practicing in diaspora while our own people back home, they are dying of high blood pressure, diabetes, basic health care. They are not getting it. And you think, if you are working with any foreign government, just like Michael Rubin, our guest speaker, is trying to tell the international leaders right now, including Finland, if you think that these people that have been in Finland for the past 3-4 days, we have been in Finland, we have been making us, we have been talking, we are looking for those that think that what we are doing is wrong. We want them to come out. Yes. What Finland government says that our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa did is exactly what this over 1,000 people gathered here will do it, and we will continue to do it. Nobody, if the Zoo government likes, if the Nigerian government under President Tinubu, if they like to hold our leader Nnamdi Kanu for the next 100 years, if Finland, that is known as one of the freest countries in the world, could succumb to this little child's play being engineered by Nigerian agents in this Finland that are some Biafrans too, if they succumb to this, then they've dented their image. But we Biafrans, we hold Finland at a very high esteem. And we will watch how this is going to play out between Finland, Biafra, and Nigeria government. And at the end of the day, they will know that this little thing they did to him, thinking it's gonna hurt him or hurt us, it has made us.
But a fellow freedom fighter for the independence of Biafra. And today I greet you as victorious independence fighters, because that's what you are. Yeah, my friends, this occasion is an illustrious one that will forever be in our hearts and will be passed along to future posterity as a seminal moment in our great struggle for freedom. The independence of Biafra will not only be a symbol of hope for the continent of Africa, but the entire world. Biafra will be a symbol of pride. In the 1960s, President John F. Kennedy and the United States government played an important role in supporting the decolonization of Africa and supporting various African independence leaders and African nationalist movements. President Kennedy understood that supporting the African people rather than the European colonists was not only the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but in the interests of the United States, which at the time had been competing with the Soviet Union for influence in Africa and throughout the world. Similarly, in this new age of great power competition, the United States has an obligation to support the new African independence movements of the 21st century and put an end to the legacy of neocolonialism in Africa. And Nigeria is one of the worst examples of neocolonialism, a failed British project. And the rise of Biafra will put an end to this nonsense in Africa. As the Biafran government lobbyist in Washington, D.C., I've taken the Biafran message, or we could even say the Biafran gospel, to the highest levels. We have spoken to the Congress. We have spoken.
When it comes to Biafra, what I see is everything being done right. I have gone, let me put it this way. Again, I say this as an academic. I've been to many places around the world in which people desire their freedom. I've been to Iraqi Kurdistan, Turkish Kurdistan, and Syrian Kurdistan. And I've written a book where, while I empathize with the Kurds, they are not yet ready for independence because they have not taken the basic steps to form a unitary government that can step into the vacuum on day one and lead their people. That is something that the Biafrans have, a mistake the Biafrans have not made. What I see today with the organization of the Biafrans has been absolutely and completely admirable. You are not simply symbolically declaring independence. You are setting in motion a government which can take over all functions of the government. Now, some people may complain that Biafra now has its own army, and they may say that is a terrorist action. They are wrong. It is the job of any government to monopolize the use of force within its territory. The Nigerian army is the occupying army right now. Its job is not to monopolize the use of force within Biafra, because they have shown when they use force, they use it not for security, but to perpetrate insecurity. They use it to murder, they use it to rape, they use it to charter buses, to bring in militias, so that people, naive people, may believe that they have nothing to do with what is going on in the region. Now, I'm a historian by training, which means I get paid to predict the past. Also, speaking of pay, let me be clear. I am receiving nothing for my advocacy for Biafra. I have been offered nothing, I have demanded nothing, and I am receiving nothing. Nor would it even be legal for me to accept money from anyone. I am speaking only as an analyst and only as someone who wants to further liberty. Now, I ask as a historian, where has it worked to force the victims of genocide together with their perpetrators? Where in history has that ever worked? Aggressors must understand that if they turn to genocide, they will always lose. The fact of the matter is, Nigeria lost Biafra in 1967. They may have won the war temporarily, but they permanently lost Biafra. The decisions they made 57 years ago forfeited any rights they have to control, to occupy, to speak on behalf of the people of Biafra. Let me conclude by saying, as an analyst again, I don't think the United States will be the first country to recognize Biafra. But I pray that it won't be the third country either. Biafra to move from Finland and to lobby vociferously, night and day, in order to ensure that the African Union recognizes that Biafra is already more organized, already more capable of statehood, already will have a higher standard of living, already will be at peace with itself and its neighbors more than many other African countries. And therefore, it will be a boon to Africa, a boon to the African Union, a boon to the spread of democracy in the region, an anchor for stability in the region, in an area that is increasingly unstable, especially as people come from the north in order to destabilize. So let me conclude by saying, with my very short remarks, that I wish I could be with you there today. Family prevented me from coming, but I admire what you're doing, I follow what you're doing, and I pray for what you're doing. Long live Biafra.
In your own words, what would you tell the Finnish authorities right now in regards to the allegations of incitement by our Honorable Prime Minister?
You know, Finland's got to be on the right side of history. Finland especially should live up to its status, its claim as being the freest country on earth. That's what Freedom House ranked it as, and right now they're endangering their status. I should note that this isn't just a Nigeria-Finland issue. When there was an argument, when there was an effort for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, Turkey tried to blackmail both, but mostly Sweden, in order to betray Kurds, and Kurdish dissidents and Kurdish free speech in Sweden, in order to get Recep Tayyip Erdogan to drop his objection to Sweden's accession to NATO. And in the end, Sweden betrayed its principles, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while he allowed Sweden in NATO, gratuitously humiliated Sweden. Finland should not allow itself to be gratuitously humiliated by a country that violates religious freedom, by a country that violates democracy, by a country that has been guilty of genocide. Finland must be better, and they must recognize that they should not be an arm of transnational repression. They will always lose. The fact of the matter is, Nigeria lost Biafra in 1967. They may have won the war temporarily, but they permanently lost Biafra. The decisions they made 57 years ago forfeited any rights they have to control, to occupy, to speak on behalf of the people of Biafra. Let me conclude by saying, as an analyst again, I don't think the United States will be the first country to recognize Biafra. But I pray that it won't be the third country either. Biafra to move from Finland and to lobby vociferously, night and day, in order to ensure that the African Union recognizes that Biafra is already more organized, already more capable of statehood, already will have a higher standard of living, already will be at peace with itself and its neighbors more than many other African countries. And therefore, it will be a boon to Africa, a boon to the African Union, a boon to the spread of democracy in the region, an anchor for stability in the region, in an area that is increasingly unstable, especially as people come from the north in order to destabilize. So let me conclude by saying with my very short remarks that I wish I could be with you there today. Family prevented me from coming, but I admire what you're doing, I follow what you're doing, and I pray for what you're doing. Long live Biafra. Matter of figuring out how to get them to the public. And for that, I commend your energy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless everybody. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael, for your support. My question is, why do you think the West, who always clamor for human rights, prefer to partner with these repressive regimes in Africa at the expense of human life?
You know, it's a great question. And it's something that's frustrated me in other contexts. First of all, there's two types of it. Let me put it this way. When George Shultz was the United States Secretary of State under Ronald Reagan, whenever a new U.S. ambassador would be nominated to go to a different country, George Shultz always invited him into his office on the 7th floor of the State Department, and he had a big globe there. And he would tell the ambassador nominee, show me your country. And God forbid, if that ambassador pointed to Gabon or Senegal or Somalia or Kenya, George Shultz would say, no, never forget that your country is the United States of America. The point of this is that some ambassadors believe that they are successful if they have good relations with the country to which they are sent. But that's not the job of the ambassador to be liked by the president, the prime minister, or the dictator. It's the job of the president to advocate for United States national interests. And I would argue that United States national interests are at their strongest when they are backed by liberty and moral clarity. So, rather than have an ambassador who simply wants to have good personal relations with an undemocratic leader.
Yes! 100%!
57 years ago, forfeited any rights they have to control, to occupy, to speak on behalf of the people of Biafra. Let me conclude by saying, as an analyst again, I don't think the United States will be the first country to recognize Biafra. But I pray that it won't be the third country either. Biafra to move from Finland and to lobby vociferously, night and day, in order to ensure that the African Union recognizes that Biafra is already more organized, already more capable of statehood, already will have a higher standard of living, already will be at peace with itself and its neighbors more than many other African countries. And therefore, it will be a boon to Africa, a boon to the African Union, a boon to the spread of democracy in the region, an anchor for stability in the region, in an area that is increasingly unstable, especially as people come from the north in order to destabilize. So let me conclude by saying with my very short remarks that I wish I could be with you there today. Family prevented me from coming, but I admire what you're doing, I follow what you're doing, and I pray for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.